This is a video on how to travel for cheap. So, when it comes to traveling across Canada, one of my favorite ways to travel across Canada, at least up until this summer, was by Greyhound. So anyways, this past summer, I took a trip across Canada. I live in London, Ontario, which is about 200 kilometers or 120 miles from Toronto. And the furthest destination I traveled to was Vancouver. Vancouver is approximately maybe 5,000 kilometers or 3,000 miles from Toronto. So anyways, for the first leg of the trip, I flew on a new discount airline called Swoop Airlines. I flew from Hamilton, Ontario, which is about 75 kilometers or 50 miles from 45 miles from Toronto, to Winnipeg, which was like a 2.5 hour airplane flight, so about 2,000 kilometers or 1,200 miles. It only cost me $104 to fly by Swoop Airlines. So one way to save money is by flying on a discount airline. Right now in Canada, we have two discount airlines. We have Swoop and we have Flair Air, or Flair Airlines, which is formerly New Leaf Airlines. The idea is to book your trip as far in advance as possible. My trip on Swoop, I booked it about a month before I left. And that trip ended up costing me $104 for a 2.5 hour plane ride. So that's not a bad price for air travel in Canada, because air travel in Canada is generally quite expensive. From Winnipeg, I went to Edmonton. Winnipeg to Edmonton, I would say it's probably close to 2,000 kilometers, close to 1,200 miles. Like if I was to fly by plane, it would be about a 2-hour airplane ride. But anyways, I went there by Greyhound bus. My Greyhound bus ticket from Winnipeg to Edmonton was about $116, $117. Again, that's quite a good price. I do a lot of traveling by Greyhound. My next trip after Edmonton, I went from Edmonton to Calgary, which is about 300 kilometers or 180 miles. And that trip by Greyhound from Edmonton to Calgary was it worked out to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $25 to $27. Yeah, it was around $25 or so. And then I went from Calgary to Banff. Calgary to Banff is about a 1.5 hour trip approximately. So we're talking about 140 kilometers or 85 miles. Calgary to Banff only ended up costing me, it came up to something like about $18 if I remember correctly. So anyways, the point is, Greyhound is one of the cheapest ways to travel long distance across Canada. Now, the key to getting a cheap Greyhound ticket, A, book your ticket as far in advance as possible. As a matter of fact, I would recommend booking at least 14 days in advance, but try to book more than 14 days in advance if possible. Greyhound might be changing their algorithms, I don't know, so maybe the requirement will become that you have to book even further in advance. So book at least 14 days in advance, if possible. Also get yourself something called an international hosteling card. An international hosteling card for an adult. I picked one up during the spring of 2017, maybe around April or May of 2017. And that only cost me about $35. And that's good. That particular card I have right now is good till March 31st, 2019. So that's almost 2 years for $35. What an international hosteling card will do, it gets you a 25% discount if you travel by Greyhound, or up to a 25% discount if you travel by Greyhound. And that's whether you walk up to buy your tickets at the counter or you order your tickets online through Greyhound's website. Or you can get yourself an international hosteling card. I think a lifetime membership card is something like $175. And also another way to save yourself some money on traveling with Greyhound, instead of walking up and buying the ticket in person at the counter, order the tickets online. Go on to Greyhound's website, order it online. I usually pay by credit card when I order it online, and again, do it at least 2 weeks in advance. Or I think now you can even pay by debit if you order online through Greyhound's website. Another way that I save money when I'm traveling, I always just use public transit when I travel. Like all the cities I've traveled to are generally major cities: Winnipeg, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, Whistler, Banff, Victoria, BC. So generally the cities I travel to have their own public transit system. Just use public transit to get around. I know some people hate public transit, but you know what? It's by far the cheapest way to get around. It's just a matter of going on their website and checking their schedules and their maps and that kind of thing. And yes, you might have to plan your schedule around it, but it will save you a lot of money. Traveling by public transit is much cheaper than having to use a taxi or an Uber or a Lyft or renting a car. Now with me, I generally travel across Canada with a friend of mine, and thankfully my friend, she knows people all over Canada. She has friends and family living all across Canada, so quite often we're lucky enough to be able to stay with them. However, if you want to save yourself money from time to time when it comes to sleeping somewhere overnight, you know how expensive hotels are. You can stay at a hostel if you want. Even though hostels in some major cities like, say, Calgary and Vancouver can be somewhat expensive even though they're a lot cheaper than hotels. The way that I've saved myself some money from time to time, if I'm only going to be staying in a city for, say, one night, there have been times I've just gone to sleep at the airport. You know, if it's a major international airport like Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Vancouver, Toronto, Pearson, Montreal, I'll just go find myself a comfortable enough seat and sleep at the airport. It's free. You're not the only one doing it. You'll find other people doing it. And sometimes when it comes to showering, you can either go to one of those airport lounges to shower, or if you happen to have a fitness membership, like my friend, she had a fitness membership with Good Life Fitness. So we'd be able to go down to Good Life Fitness and shower, or go to some place like, go to a fitness gym, like a community center, like the YMCA or something like that, to shower if you sleep at the airport for the night. Another word of caution as well, too. If you do sleep at the airport overnight, there is a possibility that airport staff might come and wake you up ask you for why you're sleeping there, and ask you if you just got in on a flight or if you're traveling somewhere the next day. So you might get hassled by airport staff. They might want to see proof that you actually just came in on a flight, or that you're flying out the next day. Like I know, for example, at Vancouver International Airport, I've been hassled by their airport staff a few times about sleeping at their airport. And there was even one night when I went to sleep at Ottawa International Airport. And it was actually two police officers I woke up and there were two police officers standing beside me, asking me what I was doing there and telling me, oh, the airport's only for people that are traveling to and from. This isn't a place to sleep, blah, blah, blah. So just be aware of that. And unfortunately, there's not really many ways to save on food. You can look around a little bit for food, but unless you're staying with someone, or unless you happen to have a hotel room with cooking facilities, there's not very many ways to save on food. Sometimes you just end up eating out when you're traveling. But I find the easiest way to save money on travel is those tips that I suggested throughout this video. Unfortunately, Greyhound, effective November 1st, 2018, Greyhound is no longer going to be servicing BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, or Northern Ontario. The only place in BC that's going to be served by Greyhound come November 1st, 2018, there's going to be Greyhound buses going between Vancouver and Seattle. Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba will be completely left out of the picture by Greyhound. Northern Ontario won't be served by Greyhound anymore, so the furthest north that Greyhound's going to go come November 1st will be Sudbury, Ontario. But anyways, I'm going to do some research. I'm going to be doing a video about that, about alternatives to traveling by Greyhound in those areas that Greyhound will be discontinuing service in. Please like, share, subscribe. Thanks for listening.